Hello, and thank you all for being subscribers to Drop the Needle. This issue is free thanks to all the new subscribers. The next issue on August 18th will be behind the paywall, and it has some important literature and repertoire by Johann Sebastian Bach, Benjamin Britten, César Franck, Olivier Messiaen, and Jakob Obrecht, among others. So please upgrade your membership to the paid level at just $5 per month or $55 per year to get all this important music sent right to your inbox. I am David A. Benoit, the content creator for Drop the Needle, music literature and repertoire newsletter on Substack. And my wife happens to be here today, and my dog happens to be here today, and my cat happens to be here today, and there happens to be a thunderstorm outside today. So hope you enjoy this video podcast introduction to the great content on today's issue of Drop the Needle. Here's what's going on in this free issue of Drop the Needle. Above all, this is the first issue to include Spotify links. For the music that is available on Spotify, there is a link to each piece, and at the top of the issue, there is a link to a Spotify playlist for all of the music in the issue that is available. There's one or two pieces that are not available on Spotify, but almost everything is available on Spotify, and that link is right at the top. You just want to click it and go straight to Spotify and just let it play in the background. That will let you hear almost all of today's music, and I plan on continuing that. First is the Violin Concerto No. 1 by the Soviet composer Dimitri Shostakovich. It is in A minor, and it is one of the most distraught and wrenching pieces of music out there, even for Shostakovich. The second movement has been called demonic. It was written post-World War II when the Zhdanov decree was in force, which said that all art had to support the ruling party. In other words, anything that was intended for public consumption had to be vetted by censors and support the ideas that the United States was imperialist and that the Soviet Union was democratic, even though the Soviet Union was ruled by a single political party. The piece, along with all of Shostakovich's music, but this piece in particular, was banned due to, quote, anti-Soviet propaganda, lack of proper ideological perspective, and the lack of perceived artistic merit. Basically, it was banned because the Kremlin censors could tell that Shostakovich didn't like the ruling Communist Party. The concerto wasn't performed until 1955, which was after the death of Stalin. The YouTube performance is by the New England Conservatory Philharmonia, which is a youth ensemble with violinist Eugen Young, who is now a teacher at the Eastman School of Music in Rochester. Next we have Justorum Animae, which translates to The Souls of the Just by William Byrd. The piece is just at 4 centuries old and is still one of the most important settings of this funeral text. It is wonderfully sung on the YouTube by 5 singers of the Marian Consort. The Spotify link is to the choir of King's College, Cambridge. It has some beautiful word painting for the text. In the sight of the unwise, they seem to die. Byrd uses some non-chord dissonances called suspensions to evoke a sense of unease and to evoke a sense of transition from this world to the next. It's just so very beautiful and truly classical in its timelessness, and it is worth the listen. It is worth being familiar with. Next is Fanfare for the Uncommon Woman No. 1 by Grammy Award-winning composer Joan Tower. Both the title and the form of the composition are references to Aaron Copland's Fanfare for the Common Man, which will be featured on Drop the Needle sooner or later. In the composer's own words, the piece is a tribute to women who take risks and are adventurous. Both the YouTube and Spotify links go to the exact same recording of the St. Louis Symphony Conductor by Leonard Slatkin. Next, there is a large-scale work by Gustav Holst called The Cloud Messenger. The piece is not his best known or the most played of Holst's oeuvre. It's unique in that it's based on ancient Sanskrit poetry, and it is quite beautiful. I have the London Symphony Orchestra and Chorus performing it, and you can see a piano reduction score in the YouTube video. Next, we have a motet that's legitimately half a millennia old. It's about a century older than the Bird. It's Supremum est Mortabilis Bonum, which translates in English to The Supreme Good for Mortal Men. I have 3 performances in the newsletter. The first is by the Welges Ensemble from Belgium. The second is by the Cantica Sinfonia. And the third is the Oxford Camerata, directed by Jeremy Summerlee. This piece is truly classical in every sense of the word. It is said to be from a total of about 13 motets Dufay wrote to usher out the ideas and aesthetics of the medieval Middle Ages and usher in the ideas and aesthetics of what would become the Renaissance or Age of Discovery. Another word associated with this piece and the other 12 or so pieces is isorhythmic, which means that there is a rhythmic formula that is repeated while the melodic material changes. It also uses the compositional device known as the Faubourden or false bass. It's where 2 voices are written in parallel intervals of a sixth, which causes an auditory trick, a kind of musical or harmonic illusion, where the root of these harmonies that would be below those 2 intervals is sounding, yet it's not actually sounding. It plays a trick in our imaginations. We hear it even though it's not actually being played. It's ingenious in many ways. One of the marks of a good composer is the ability, especially in chamber music, to make it sound like more is happening than what's actually happening. And Dufay unquestionably is a master of this, which is amazing because he had so few tools, musical, harmonic, and compositional tools available to him, unlike modern composers who have a wealth, an abundance of musical tools available to them with which to craft music. Remember, this is almost the very beginnings of musical ideas that would become both Beethoven and Elvis. If you get nothing else from this, then it's these 2 ideas that go together. Late medieval music and isorhythm go together, and Dufay and Faubourden go together. With this piece, it's just simply beautiful, timeless music, and I hope you enjoy it. Next is a work for wind ensemble played by the University of Southern Mississippi Wind Ensemble. It's called Homage by John Moody. This piece is minimalist and has a very simple idea. All the motion is either by step or by fourth. There is no motion in any voice that is by anything other than a step or by fourth. It's an interesting piece. It's an interesting work of minimalism, and it's worth the listen. Then there is some lighthearted satire in the form of P.D.Q. Bach's Carnival of the Animals, which is an homage to a very famous piece for children by the French composer Camille Saint-Saëns. P.D.Q. Bach is the pen name for musicologist Peter Schickele, who used to have a popular music literature and repertoire radio program, not unlike this newsletter, called Schickele Mix. P.D.Q. Bach's music is a reminder that no one should be taking this stuff too seriously. The piece has a narration that is read by the composer, and it is full of wit and all kinds of jokes. If you're looking for a chuckle, this piece is worth a listen. Then there is the Fugue on the Theme of the Clarion of Hours of the Cathedral of Soissons by Maurice Duruflé. It's so beautiful that I have 3 performances of it. The first is by Dr. Chris Risotto on a Fisk organ at the University of Oklahoma. The third performance is from Spotify by Todd Wilson on the Schutte organ at St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Church in Dallas, Texas. The middle performance, which is what I'd like to talk a little bit about, is by Jeremy Cole at Wells Cathedral in the UK. And when you go to the video, they take some time to show you around Wells Cathedral a little bit, which is architecturally very, very famous for its 14th century scissor arches in the crossing that were masterfully built there to stabilize the tower over the crossing. Partly because there was damage from an earthquake, and partly because the foundation couldn't stand the weight of the tower, and the whole thing started to lean. Where the transepts and the choir and the nave of the church all met, that central part is called the crossing, and it was starting to lean. The construction and stabilization of all of this in the 14th century was an amazing accomplishment. I wish these arches were featured in the video a little bit more, but they're not. The piece is an amazing accomplishment too. It starts at a moderate volume and gets louder all the way toward the end, and all of the classic fugue compositional techniques are there, including inversion, augmentation, and stretto. It's worth the listen. Then we have the English anthem, Thou, O God, Art Praised by Malcolm Boyle. Just about any Anglican or Episcopalian choir will get around to singing this sublimely beautiful anthem sooner or later. The video has the score. The middle verse is written for just the sopranos, which are sung by boys. The phenomena of the boy soprano has been around for centuries. The sound is one of a kind and very compelling, and it can make even the hearts of the heartless soar. Next, there is the Te Deum in C by Benjamin Britten. The Te Deum is a prayer literally meaning to God. It is one of the first prayers translated into English. I have links to the King's College Choir and St. John's College Choir, both in Cambridge. Both include wonderful solo boy sopranos who do a fantastic job with Britten's typical style of composition. This is an important setting of an important text. Then we have a setting of Ave Verum Corpus, which translates to Hail True Body, by Sir Edward Elgar, who is the same person who wrote Da 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 Da, Pomp and Circumstance, which is heard zillions of times at graduations everywhere. Edward Elgar was at Hereford Cathedral, which is in southwest England. The piece has a very deliberate harmonic rhythm that's almost more important than the melody and paints a picture of the hellish final moments of Jesus on the cross. It's worth the listen. Then there is Call to Remembrance from the 16th century English composer Richard Farrant. It's sung by the Wakefield Cathedral Choir. The text is a Holy Week Lent text. It has sublimely beautiful, imitative, and parallel composition, and it is worth the listen. Next is a piece written for royal weddings by Sir Charles Perry called Blessed Pair of Sirens, which is a text by John Milton. The YouTube link will take you to the performance of this piece at the wedding of Prince William and Kate Middleton at Westminster Abbey. The beginning of the video shows a group of the family going behind the altar into the shrine of St. Edward the Confessor, apparently to sign a register or maybe to sign the marriage certificate. They don't really show what's going on back there, and after doing some searching, I was not able to learn and figure out what they are doing when they go back there. I'd like to talk about the shrine a bit here, because even if you go and tour the cathedral in person, you may not see the shrine. Very few people get to see it. The video has, in the beginning of the video, has a very short shot of the shrine, which dates back to the 13th century. Edward the Confessor was an 11th century Anglo-Saxon king of England. He was one of the last Anglo-Saxon kings, and his shrine was an important pilgrimage site. The shrine is built with his remains elevated over niches that allow pilgrims to kneel under the remains, where they would pray for the deceased's intervention, which that intervention would be made manifest in the form of miracles that would be documented and then validated by the Vatican, which would lead to canonization into sainthood. The video spends a lot of time on breathtakingly beautiful shots of the church and its 11th century French Gothic architecture. It also shows the people in attendance at this wedding, which looks like there were Roman Catholic clergy and monastics there. It looks like there were Greek Orthodox priests there, all at an Anglican wedding. And you will also notice that every single woman there is wearing something in their head, either something simple-ish, but usually it's something quite unsubtle. It's worth watching this video just to see the hats. The music is also beautiful too, and the singing and playing is also beautiful too. Next is the New England Triptych by American composer William Howard Schumann. There are links to 2 versions in the newsletter. That's because Schumann wrote of the original version for orchestra, and he wrote his own transcription of the piece for band. The YouTube link goes to the United States Marine Band for the Marine Band version, and the Spotify link goes to the orchestral version performed by the New York Philharmonic. The piece is a tribute to William Billings, who is regarded as America's first choral composer. The piece is in 3 movements. First is Be Glad Than America. The second is When Jesus Wept, and the last is Chester. Next is a setting of Psalm 122 by Leo Sowerby, who was at St. James Episcopal Cathedral in Chicago. Sowerby's music was influenced by jazz, so the harmonies are very unique. Both the YouTube and Spotify links go to the same performance by the Washington National Cathedral Choir of Men and Girls. Lastly is the famous improvisation on the Gregorian chant Victimae Pascali Laudes by Charles Tournemire and transcribed by Maurice Duruflé. It's amazing. It's amazing performances of an amazing piece. It's an improvisation and entered into the literature because it was transcribed. Someone listened to the recording and wrote down an approximation of what the music could look like if it were notated. The improvisation is based on Gregorian chant for Easter, and I'd like to sing for you the very beautiful chant as it appears in the Episcopal hymnal. This is number 183 from the 1982 hymnal, Christians to the Paschal Victim.
Christians to the Paschal Victim, offer your thankful praises. O Lamb the sheep redeemeth, Christ who only is sinless, reconcileth sinners to the Father. Death and life have contended in that combat stupendous. The Prince of Life who died reigns immortal. Speak, Mary, declaring what thou sawest wayfaring. The tomb of Christ who is living, the glory of Jesus' resurrection. Bright angels attesting, the shroud and napkin resting. Yea, Christ my hope is arisen, to Galilee he will go before you. Christ indeed from death arisen, a new life obtaining. Have mercy, Victor, King ever reigning. Amen. Hallelujah.
Thank you so much for being a subscriber. Please spread the word. Please forward the newsletter to anyone you think might like it. Don't forget to follow Drop the Needle's Facebook page, and please become a paid subscriber at droptheneedle.substack.com at the bargain rate of $5 per month or $55 per year. Now, be loved and be lovely, and see you next week. Then there is the Fugue on the theme of the Clarion of Hours of the Cathedral of Soissons by Maurice Duruflé. You getting around there, doggy? Then there is the Fugue on the theme of the Clarion of Hours of the Cathedral of Soissons by Maurice Duruflé. It's so beautiful that I have 3 performances of it. Then there is the Fugue on the theme of the Clarion of Hours of the Cathedral of Soissons by Maurice Duruflé. The piece is so beautiful. You done?